Tonight, China lifts its ban on Canadian pork and beef.
It's a positive step.
Are relations thawing, or does Beijing just need the meat? Relentless threats and abuse lead some MPs to install panic buttons.
It just seems like a bad dream.
A brutal ambush in Mexico kills 9 members of a U.S. family. Was it a case of mistaken identity?
There's a very, very small number of people who have very loud mouths spreading vaccine misinformation.
And how doctors are trying to reach vaccine-hesitant parents. This is The National. For nearly a year now, diplomatic relations between Canada and China have been pretty dismal. Well, tonight, a thaw in tensions, bringing relief for Canadian beef and pork producers. After more than a 4-month ban, they will be allowed to export their meat to China once again, putting an end to one of the trade disputes between our two countries. And Rosie, the farmers aren't the only ones claiming a win here.
Yeah, the news came from the Prime Minister himself, Andrew, framing it as a political win for his new minority government and a chance, of course, to reassure Canadian farmers, especially those out west. This reversal is far from the end, of course, of this diplomatic spat between Ottawa and Beijing, but it is a step forward. Salima Shivji looks at why now and what's next.
At one of Canada's biggest agricultural fairs, it was welcome news.
Over 70% of our hogs are exported. If we lose an export market, it causes disaster in the price. So this is fabulous news, fabulous news.
Everybody will be celebrating tonight, I'm sure. Yeah, wonderful.
It's been more than 4 months since Beijing blocked all Canadian pork and meat imports, the latest in a string of moves that ramped up tensions between the two countries, after authorities here, acting on an American request, detained Huawei executive Meng Wanzhou. 4 months of major losses for the meat industry.
We're looking at between 300 and 400 million so far over the last 4 months, so it's a significant amount.
The Prime Minister hinting today at how it happened, the result of much work behind the scenes to convince Chinese authorities Canada's pork was safe, giving thanks to a new ambassador with strong business ties in China. The shift comes as China's president toured a Shanghai trade event and touted cooperation to resolve global disputes. But lifting the ban is perhaps more about desperation than anything else. China's pig population has been hit hard by swine flu, and with New Year celebrations looming, China needs Canadian pork.
I think the PM has commented about it. It's a positive step.
Except canola farmers are still stuck in the middle of the diplomatic dispute, and 2 Canadians remain detained in retaliation for Meng's arrest.
You have to think also in terms of the Chinese culture, and President Xi Jinping doesn't want to lose face. They have been very clear. We have to return Mrs. Meng before things can return to normal.
And so not necessarily a thaw in relations, but politically helpful nonetheless for Justin Trudeau. Good optics as he retools his cabinet in a minority situation where the West needs careful consideration. Salima Shivji, CBC News, Ottawa.
We're learning some more tonight about what that new federal cabinet could look like as Liberals return to Parliament Hill this week, too. David Cochrane has been speaking with sources about where the Prime Minister's head is at. All right, David, what are you learning tonight?
Yeah, Rosie, we should find out pretty soon if the House of Commons is going to reopen before the end of this year. Trudeau is going to have a series of face-to-face meetings with the opposition leaders next week. And I'm told that once those meetings are over, we will find out if a throne speech will happen sometime in 2019 or if it's going to be pushed into the new year. And while Trudeau's figuring that out, he also has to finalize his cabinet. And maybe the biggest decision is about Chrystia Freeland's future. Widely seen as a success in foreign affairs, but there are discussions at the top level of government as to whether she should be moved to a domestic portfolio so her skill set can be deployed here at home. The idea is that you need your best players in Canada in a minority government situation. Now, another key figure is Finance Minister Bill Morneau. The expectation right now is that he is staying put. The Liberals think the economy is going well and they want to send a message of stability. But you know, just because you were in cabinet and got reelected, it doesn't mean you're automatically going back into cabinet. It may still happen that way, but there is a conversation about changing the players and possibly restructuring some departments to better reflect new priorities. On top of that, they're still figuring out how to represent Alberta and Saskatchewan, and the sense there is that results matter more than representation, so the immediate focus is to get the pipeline done and get it done as quickly as possible. But Rosie, I can tell you one thing that's not going to change is the Prime Minister's Chief of Staff. Katie Telford is staying in that role. There was a lot of talk about her going to Washington as the next ambassador to the United States. Also a lot of talk about the need for big changes in the PMO. Those changes of some sort, they will still happen, Rosie, but Katie Telford, she's staying put.
Okay, lots of stuff there tonight. Thanks for that, David. Appreciate it.
You got it. Thanks.
The Conservative caucus will meet in Ottawa tomorrow for the first time since the election. And with questions swirling around Andrew Scheer's leadership, many now want some answers. Katie Simpson looks at the mood going in.
Arriving in Ottawa on the eve of the big meeting, there's a key question looming over Conservatives.
Do you think Mr. Scheer has done enough to hold on to support to remain as leader of the party?
Andrew has my support 100%.
Do you think caucus is sharing that mood?
We'll find out when we get there.
Well, obviously, I'm supporting Andrew and have supported him from the beginning. So hopefully the rest of the caucus will come along. But we really need to have a good plan in order to win.
Conservative leader Andrew Scheer wants to keep his job, and this gathering will be his first opportunity to convince caucus he deserves to keep it.
I'm hoping to hear that the leader has begun to consider why we didn't win the election, the sort of social conservative hedging around a woman's right to choose. I think not to have a climate policy in this day and age is just asking for trouble.
Hopes were high Scheer could defeat a wounded Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, weakened by a blackface scandal and declining popularity.
I think we would be absolutely crazy to dump a leader who we won 20 seats more. We won the popular vote. We didn't get what we wanted, but how crazy is that to start biting your ankles?
This senator says the party needs to improve its election ground game and focus more on talking to voters. Scheer's campaign manager was the man behind that plan and has also faced criticism from within.
What kind of message is Mr. Scheer going to deliver?
I'm just here to meet with some people.
Will you be taking part in caucus at all?
I'm not sure how that's any of your business.
Several Conservatives landing here today said they'll use the meeting to get a better sense of the mood of caucus and whether Andrew Scheer is the right person to lead the team into the next federal election. Katie Simpson, CBC News, Ottawa.
As political divisions grow deeper in this country, more and more online rhetoric crosses the line into abuse against politicians and their staff, even real-life threats. Ashley Burke shows us what they face and what they're doing to try and stay safe.
Gabriel Yu's daily routine includes going through his boss's messages. More and more sound like this.
You want to bring in sick people into the country? Well, it's you who's sick, Kwan. You suck.
Kwan is MP Jenny Kwan, a visible minority woman and the NDP's immigration critic. The online hate aimed at Kwan and her staff, including racism, misogyny, and threats, can be relentless and spill into the real world with angry calls and visits to their office.
Some of our staff felt intimidated and worried about our own safety.
Kwan felt she had to make staff feel safe.
We have a panic button, for example, in our office. And so if at any point in time where people are feeling threatened or unsafe, you can actually press the panic button and then help would arrive.
The problem reaches beyond party lines. Last winter, someone sent a video to a staffer at the Prime Minister's office telling her how to kill herself.
It takes a toll, honestly, it does.
Death threats convinced Elizabeth May to hire a private security consultant to assess her office.
The RCMP should reach out proactively to the offices of every member of Parliament, whether they're male or female, and just say, have you considered the security perimeter of your office?
May's chief of staff says employees lack training to deal with the onslaught.
It's very difficult for people. It takes a lot of energy in order to be able to handle the assaults and the insults.
It's an issue in the ridings, and a committee of MPs is looking for solutions.
More needs to be done, and that's some of the things we're looking at, both in terms of is there additional security measures that we can take, how do we deal with remote offices where maybe only one person is working in that office.
There is a new system to report on-the-job harassment, but it doesn't address how to deal with hate when it walks through the office door. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Ottawa.
So clearly over the past decade, as social media has grown, political rhetoric has gotten uglier, so too has what elected officials and their staff have to face. They also recognize how what they say can help to improve it. For now, back to Andrew in Toronto.
Okay, Rosie, there was another twist at Donald Trump's impeachment inquiry in Washington today. 1 month after a key witness first testified, he's now changed his story. Susan Ormiston takes us through the reversal.
Ambassador Gordon Sondland peppered his 10 hours of testimony last month with, "I don't recall." He now has much better recall, confirming that he did tell a top Ukrainian official that resumption of U.S. aid would likely not occur until Ukraine provided the public anti-corruption statement we have been discussing for many weeks.
Thank you very much. It's a great honor. Thank you very much.
Meaning, until Ukraine agreed to investigate the Bidens and a Ukraine energy company. But Sondland, a Trump donor and appointee, said he only presumed that was the reason hundreds of millions of dollars of military assistance was held up. He doesn't know how, where, or when it was stalled, giving the president an out.
It's a phony scam. It's a hoax.
The White House said today there was no directive from President Trump, only salacious media headlines.
All of the witnesses agree that the president engineered a shakedown of the Ukrainian government.
Sondland also detailed Rudy Giuliani's influence on U.S.-Ukraine relations. Sondland told the Ukrainians they had to go along with Giuliani's, quote, insidious demands. Did Sondland discuss that with Secretary of State Mike Pompeo? Yes. He rolled his eyes and said, that's something we've got to deal with. Unorthodox, but nothing impeachable, according to the Senate Majority Leader.
I'm pretty sure how it's likely to end. If it were today, I don't think there's any question it would not lead to a removal.
More witnesses scheduled to appear and testify on Capitol Hill this week simply haven't shown up, and that's becoming a pattern, which leaves the Democrats to calculate when and if they have enough evidence to proceed to public hearings and then an impeachment vote. Susan Ormiston, CBC News, Washington.
Let's bring you back to Canada now. Tonight, Winnipeg is reeling from its 40th homicide of the year. It seems on track to set a grim new record, and the city is crying out for help. Cam McIntosh takes us there.
Behind that fluttering yellow tape, this morning, Winnipeg police began combing through another homicide scene. At the same time, the city's mayor was sending a letter to the Premier and Prime Minister asking to meet face to face.
What we're acknowledging here is we need help.
Mayor Brian Bowman says Winnipeg is facing a violent crime crisis. Senior governments need to step up.
So much of what we're dealing with right now stem from a greater need in our community to better combat mental health, addictions, and families in crisis.
At 40, Winnipeg currently stands one short of its all-time annual homicide record. It's still early November. 11 of those homicides were committed in the last 30 days, including the stabbing deaths of a teen girl and 3-year-old Hunter Straight Smith, attacked in his sleep.
This is unprecedented for us as a police service, as a city.
Winnipeg police say there's no common thread to explain it all.
We haven't seen an underlying theme in those homicides, that there are elements of domestic homicides, random acts of violence that are related to nothing that we can see. Robberies gone bad, methamphetamine, underlying elements of drug culture, as well as gangs.
Whether the city has actually become less safe overall is debatable. But scenes like this weekend's vigil for that 3-year-old boy are building a sense of urgency.
We had a beautiful, heartfelt, heart-wrenching vigil for baby Hunter, and none of our leaders were there.
Manitoba's premier is already set to meet with the Prime Minister on Friday. He says crime is on the agenda, but stops short of calling this a crisis.
I agree with getting results for Manitobans, and safer streets are what Manitobans who abide by the laws of our province deserve to have.
No matter who's meeting, the reality here is reducing violent crime in this city will take more than just talking about it. Right now, no one has a proven plan. Cameron McIntosh, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Well, for a family in Mexico, it started out as little more than an errand, a routine drive to pick up a relative, but it ended in a bloodbath. 9 Americans, including 6 children, were gunned down in broad daylight on a dusty road south of the Arizona border. And as Arthi Pohl reports, they may not have been the intended target.
He can barely breathe. A relative circles the burned-out vehicle riddled with bullet holes. The SUV was one of 3 carrying his family members.
This is for the record. Nita and 4 of my grandchildren are burnt and shot up.
3 women and 6 children, including 8-month-old twins, were killed. They were members of a breakaway Mormon community that settled in northern Mexico decades ago.
I think a lot of us are just speechless. It's horrific, and we just can't believe that this actually happened to our family. It just seems like a bad dream.
Alfonso.
Mexican officials say gunmen may have mistaken the large SUVs for the vehicles of rival gangs. It's happened before.
We're still trying to get more of the details on what happened.
Donald Trump offered to help Mexico, tweeting, "This is the time for Mexico, with the help of the United States, to wage war on the drug cartels and wipe them off the face of the earth." Mexican authorities are grappling with extreme violence in the region. Last year, Mexico saw 33,000 homicides, and 2019 is on course to break that record.
It's not just got caught in gunfire in the wrong place at the wrong time. This is a whole new level of cartel violence.
At least 8 children survived the attack. One relative says a boy managed to escape and went looking for help after hiding his injured siblings in bushes so they would be unharmed. Several were taken to U.S. hospitals for treatment. They face a long road of physical and mental recovery. The memory of their horrific loss still raw. Arthi Pohl, CBC News, Washington.
11,000 scientists from around the world, including here in Canada, are raising the alarm tonight, signing on to a paper declaring a climate emergency. But they aren't just warning of the catastrophic threat. They're calling for, quote, bold and drastic transformations in 6 specific areas, including implementing massive energy efficiency and conservation practices, reducing short-lived pollutants like methane and soot to slow warming and help crops, and protecting and restoring the Earth's ecosystems. That includes building up forests that absorb carbon. The paper also advocates for eating a mostly plant-based diet and having a carbon-free economy, which would save ecosystems from being exploited for economic growth. Finally, there's a call to stabilize and gradually reduce the world's population by promoting girls' education, which tends to reduce how many children they end up having, and also by making sure everyone has access to family planning services. Now, people in the town of Berwick, Nova Scotia, are so concerned about the climate, they've declared their own climate emergency. Kayla Hounsell now with what they're doing in their own homes to fight global warming.
When did you install this?
About a month ago, and our furnace has not run since they were installed. We haven't burned oil in a month.
Heat pumps are just phase 1 of John Rainforth's plan to make his 70-year-old home more energy efficient.
My south roof is going to be covered in solar panels, and then in the basement I will have 2 energy storage units.
Focusing on clean energy is one of the things that the scientists are calling for. And here in Berwick, it's not just individuals acting, it's the town too.
People can borrow money through the town, make the changes to their properties now, and those changes result in returns on that investment over the years.
Berwick has a hydroelectric dam and a wind farm. An estimated 60% of its power already comes from renewable sources. Still, Council felt compelled to declare its own state of climate emergency.
It's more than just a nice thing to do, it's something that we really have to do.
That sense of urgency shared by the signatories on today's declaration.
And I actually received the invitation directly from a colleague who said, you should sign this. You know, we should all sign this.
Kate Sharon is not a climate scientist, but a social scientist. She's encouraged by the fact the climate conversation is broadening to wider scientific disciplines and says that word, emergency, is important.
Whenever there's an emergency, if there's a massive storm, people work together They change their lifestyles. They do remarkable things.
And we think our floors are going to be far warmer.
Don Rainforth says today's declaration is important.
We knew this 20 years ago, and yet it took getting close to the edge of the precipice for countries and individuals to really act knowledgeably about it.
But he says his town is an example to the world that everyone has to take part in mitigating the impact of climate change. Kayla Hounsel, CBC News, Berwick, Nova Scotia.
Now, to help stop global warming, nearly 200 nations signed on to the Paris Agreement in 2015, but a major one is pulling out. The United States says the deal is a, quote, unfair economic burden. Now, in signing on to it, countries pledged to keep global warming to less than 2 degrees above pre-industrial levels by the end of the century. But a later United Nations report warned there could be just 11 years left now to prevent irreversible damage. And it says if warming is kept to 1.5 degrees instead, most of the world's coral reefs might survive, seas would rise 10 centimeters less, and half as many as people would suffer from a lack of water. Okay, more news next on The National. After CBC News revealed a startling number of students are unvaccinated in Toronto's alternative schools, we find out how do doctors overcome vaccine hesitancy. Plus, the vital task of fighting hate, why the grandson of a Nazi war criminal is telling his story.
And police in Ontario and British Columbia are investigating needles found buried in Halloween candy. We're back in 2 minutes.
I understand why people choose not to vaccinate their children.
I don't know. I just think life is full of risks, and I don't think it's a big issue, personally.
Yesterday, we brought you a story about vaccine hesitancy at Toronto public schools. A CBC News analysis found more than 10% of students at a dozen alternative schools received an exemption because of their parents' beliefs. Now, with so much misinformation spreading online, doctors often have the difficult task of setting the record straight. And as Nicole Ireland explains, in order to reach those parents, they need to change the conversation.
Good job. See?
When Lenore Georgia Keno had her first round of vaccinations, her parents wanted as much information as they could get.
I don't think either of us personally felt like it was something we were questioning doing. Yeah. But I think just when you actually have a child of your own, you're concerned about everything that goes into their bodies.
You can just...
Once they spoke to their doctor, they were reassured vaccines are safe. But not all parents feel the same. As the anti-vaccination movement has become more prominent, doctors are increasingly seeing the impact in their exam rooms.
There's a very, very small number of people who have very loud mouths and very loud megaphones who are spreading vaccine misinformation, and horrible. And then there's the victims of this, who are parents, and they're really struggling because that fear has been elicited.
The way for doctors to combat that fear, according to guidelines from the Canadian Pediatric Society, is to acknowledge it respectfully, set aside extra time to discuss vaccine-hesitant parents' concerns, and correct any misconceptions with facts.
We get more vaccines.
For many doctors, that's a big shift from a time they gave vaccines, no questions asked.
At the end of the day, what seems to be most important is making sure parents understand that you care about their child and that the reasons you think vaccines are a good idea is because it's going to help their health.
That kind of communication is exactly what new parents say they're looking for.
I feel like I remember a generation of doctors that didn't like to be questioned. Yeah. And they would be taken aback by that, and maybe it would almost be awkward. And I don't like that for myself. I don't want that for my daughter.
That's why doctors believe open conversations focusing on facts, not judgment, could be a powerful way to combat vaccine hesitancy. Nicole Ireland, CBC News, Toronto.
Okay, now let's get to Ian in our Vancouver National Newsroom. He's watching developing stories for us.
And let's begin in Quebec, where dozens of international students took over the National Assembly today, calling on the province to reverse course on changes made to the popular Experience Quebec program. That program offered a path to permanent residency for eligible foreign students. Changes were announced to the selection criteria for the program last week, cutting the list of acceptable professions from 500 to 162.
Now we don't know what to do. Have no plan. I feel really upset and betrayed because that's not what they told us before we started here.
The Premier says the changes are about the needs of the job market. More than 7 years after a collapsed stage killed Radiohead's drum technician in Toronto, the band is calling for public apologies from all those involved. In a statement this morning, band members issued a call for parties involved in the collapse to, quote, finally and publicly admit their part in this terrible incident. This comes after another inquest wrapped last month in the UK, where officials concluded that technical advice and construction of the stage were wholly inadequate and led to Scott Johnson's death. That old story about tampered Halloween candy is more urban legend than cautionary tale, but police are looking into 2 reports of needles found inside chocolate bars. In Ontario, investigators say they were called after a child bit into this Mr. Big bar, finding a 2-inch sewing needle inside. And here in British Columbia, the RCMP called in after a mom noticed a small hole in one of her son's candy bars, cracked it in half to find a needle inside. More than 250 people have been freed in Nigeria. That's one of the international stories we'll have for you when I'm back in 20 minutes.
Sounds good. And still ahead on The National, after the killing. In the wake of a young man's violent death, 2 communities come together to fight racism. We're going to go in depth next. Plus, you've heard of being stood up on a date. How about being stood up for a job? The increasing trend of people not showing up after getting the gig. That's ahead. welcome back. 3 years after the death of Colton Boushie in rural Saskatchewan, the killing of another Indigenous man is once again igniting conversations about racism on the prairies. But this time, something's different. As Connie Walker shows us, in the wake of tragedy, two communities are coming together to confront the tensions that have long divided them.
I was going north, and then I looked in the rearview mirror, and then I seen lights. And I said, "You guys, they're following us. What do I do? Where do I go?" They said, "Just go fast. Just try and lose them. Just try and lose them." So I stepped on the gas, and I looked in the rearview mirror, and I seen it stop. We heard a shot.
Christian A. Youngman was shot and killed while he was a passenger in a truck driving down a rural road between the town of Strathmore, Alberta, and the Siksika First Nation. A champion powwow dancer and a hockey star, in many ways, Christian was seen as an example of reconciliation in action, a bridge between two communities often fraught with racial tension. His family believes that tension played a role in his death.
My son was a very, very good kid and well-loved and liked by everybody. And the reality behind it is it was an act of racism that took his life. And that's hard for me to comprehend.
Last March, after an alumni hockey game, Christian went out with friends to a Strathmore pub.
I live way...
Brooker Pretty Young Men and Brianna Crawler say at the end of the night, an exchange with strangers outside the bar led to a fight that was peppered with racial slurs.
He was standing there and he was calling me names. And
what did he say?
He told me, go back to the f***ing reserve, you f***ing dirty Indians. Like, get the f*** out of here. Like, I was looking at him and I was like, are you serious? Like F you, like, don't talk to me like that. I'm like, that's racist, right?
Brooker and Brianna say when they saw a gun, they jumped in their truck and were chased out of town. On the road back home to Siksika, Christian was shot.
And then I pulled him on and I started doing the CPR on the seat. And then, I don't know, I kind of knew he was gone there. I just felt him. It's crazy how I could, like, my best friend died in my arms.
2 days later, two white men, brothers from Strathmore, were arrested and charged with first-degree murder. As news of Christian's death spread, anger was building online.
What I heard from certain members in the community.
Buck Breaker is a counselor in Siksika. He was worried more violence would follow.
We didn't want that to escalate to the point where our young people would go into Strathmore and take more action. If that would have happened, the jail cells would have been full, and the morgue would have been full, and the courthouse would have been full.
Christian's mother, Melody, was also worried, but she refused to respond with anger or hatred. Instead, she turned to her culture and to the teachings of her grandparents and called for peace between the two communities.
My son's life was taken in the wrong way, but this isn't the way we're going to deal with it, not with revenge. We weren't taught like that.
The situation was so tense that people from Siksika were afraid to go into Strathmore. So Melody organized a candlelight vigil from the reserve into town, her attempt to rebuild the bridge that her son represented.
I didn't want our community to be afraid or feel scared, showing them that, no, you can keep your head up, be proud of who you are, be proud of where you come from. We belong here.
You know, it's not a huge bustling downtown.
Mayor Pat Fuel took an unusual step that upset some in this predominantly white town. He wrote a letter in the local paper admitting there was racism in Strathmore and called on people there to confront it.
Were you worried about talking that openly about racism in Strathmore?
Yeah, and I was worried about the controversy, but sometimes you have to do the right thing, even if the right thing is the most painful or difficult thing to do. And so I decided I would do that.
That's the reality that we have to face.
Before Christian's death, a meeting like this between Strathmore and Siksika leadership would never happen.
Strathmore and Siksika is going to be a strong example.
They've been neighbors for over 100 years, but outside of school or sports, people mostly kept to themselves.
I'm saying hi to a First Nations person I run into at a store where maybe before I would not be rude or anything, but you just get comfortable in not doing things. You just interact silently. And so I'm reaching out a little more. I'm holding doors, I'm saying hi.
Although the steps are small and the progress is slow, Melody hopes Christian's tragic death will be a wake-up call for her community and others like it.
And I hope that this can change the future for First Nations, because there's so much injustice towards First Nations and times need to change. Maybe this is one of the cases that can make that change happen.
But the real test in this new relationship will come next year, when the two men charged with Christian's death go to court.
Wow, and Connie, that will be such a critical juncture, right? I mean, do you have a sense of the different ways that case may play out?
Well, that's really the big question. You know, I think that when people hear about Christian's story, they're inevitably going to think about other high-profile cases like Colton Boushie or Tina Fontaine. And in those cases, the attention seemed to inflame some of the racial tensions that existed in those communities. So it's really remarkable what Siksika First Nation and Strathmore have been able to do here to try to move forward together. But obviously a big stress on this new relationship will come when this case hits the courts next year. When or if there's a trial, we don't know yet. There's a preliminary hearing scheduled for January, but when or if there is a trial, whatever the outcome is going to be is likely going to cause some more tension, and there will be people on both sides in Siksika and in Strathmore who will question whether or not justice has been served, and that's definitely something to watch.
Okay, Connie, thanks very much.
Thanks, Andrew.
And next on The National, he is one of the most hated men in history, the commander of a Nazi death camp. Now, his grandson is touring the world, including here in Canada, dedicated to reliving that history so it doesn't happen again. A city in eastern Germany has declared a Nazi emergency. Dresden has long been a hotbed of far-right extremism. It's where the anti-immigration movement Pegida was born and where its supporters continue to hold rallies like this one. Now, a local councillor told CNN the Nazi emergency is largely symbolic, but it's meant to highlight what many see as a growing threat. Now, someone who knows that threat all too well is Rainer Hess. His grandfather ran one of the biggest death camps during the Second World War. Now, Rainer travels the world sharing his family's past in an effort to combat hate. Joanna Remiliotis caught up with him at a Toronto high school where he was invited to speak on the first day of Holocaust Education Week.
Rainer Hess could have lived quietly in the shadow of his family's Nazi past. Instead, he confronts it every chance he gets.
A lot of people are really interested what's going on in the past.
On this day, he's at a Toronto high school with a sickening slideshow. Photos of his own privileged family, whose home overlooked the deadly camp his grandfather ruthlessly ran.
So he was a million mass murderer in the Second World War, without regret, remorse in any ways. That's my father, Hans-Jürgen. So when you see that image, I think you see a lovely family smiling everywhere.
Hess's grandfather was Rudolf Hess, an officer in Hitler's army and commander of the Auschwitz concentration camp, where 1 million Jews were gassed to death and many later incinerated. After the war, Hess was convicted as a war criminal and later executed at the very same camp he once ruled. A dark history his family buried until Rainer Hess discovered it as a teenager and began to denounce it over and over again.
Well, I know he can never do anything against it. I can cut him down in pieces. I can hate him whenever I want.
Rainer broke ties with his family when he was 15 and began to research its past. The details are chilling. How his grandmother reminded the children to wash the ash off the fruit in the garden before eating it. The ash was from the camp's incinerator. And how his grandfather's gold officer ring was made from the gold teeth sifted from the victim's remains.
I saw it when they watched about the ring. And I explained how many people have to die for a ring. I don't be that guy and said, okay, I need 30%. I'm not a politician. 1%, 1 person of 100 is enough who spreads the message I deliver.
So I was wondering, from just the history with your last name, have you ever considered changing it legally?
So I and my kids and grandkids, we committed and said, okay, we use that name, Hess, as a powerful tool against fascism, racism, homophobia, sexism, whatever exists in the world.
I think it's so strong and powerful from him to do that and to speak to so many people about such an experience.
It's really brave of him, and it is definitely necessary for people to learn about the history.
And with acts of hate on the rise, the Jewish group that brought him here says Hess's perspective resonates now more than ever.
He took it upon himself to make it his life's project in combating hate, populism, nationalism, denial, because he really sees that around him and sees that he carries an important voice.
Now in his 50s, Hess says this is his life's work.
How long will you keep doing it?
As long as I can. As long my feet put me from one end to another.
Defined by his family's history and determined to create a new legacy. Joanna Remiliotis, CBC News, Toronto.
Okay, Ian is back next with a look at stories developing around the world tonight, plus why hiring someone can be hard. The new trend of accepting a job and then ghosting in a booming job market. We're back in 2.
Welcome back to the National Newsroom in Vancouver. We're following a very close race for the governor's chair in Kentucky tonight. The state's Republican governor, Matt Bevin, is trying to win a second term as his Democratic challenger, Andy Beshear, looks to upset one of President Trump's closest allies. An indication of just how important this race is to the president. He was campaigning in Kentucky last night. Police have freed 259 people being held at an Islamic rehabilitation center in Nigeria.
We eat 1 meal a day. If you see what to eat, bro, even though if you give your dog at home, your dog can't eat it. That's what we manage here.
Many people also said they were regularly beaten, sexually abused, and chained up. 9 people, including the owner of the center, were arrested and are under investigation. There have been many police raids in these institutions in recent weeks. Nearly 1,500 people have been freed so far. And jury selection began today in the trial of Roger Stone in Washington. But Donald Trump's longtime advisor had to make an early exit. The 67-year-old said he was suffering from food poisoning after lunch. Stone was indicted in January on charges of obstructing justice and lying to Congress. The charges are related to Robert Mueller's 2-year investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 U.S. election. Stone pleaded not guilty. His trial could last at least 2 weeks. Coming up, a Nintendo classic gets supersized. Remember when Game Boy was handheld? The building of one 9 times the usual size is ahead in our moment. We're back in 2 minutes.
By now, you've probably heard the term ghosting as it relates to dating, when a person cuts off all communication with someone without any warning. But now, employers and recruiters say it's becoming a big problem in the workplace, too. Aaron Saltzman shows us why.
Wise Bite snacks are selling like hotcakes, but the company is struggling to find a key ingredient for future success. It keeps getting stood up by people it's trying to hire.
I can book appointments for 5 people to come and have an interview, and out of those 5, 3 could be no-shows.
It's happening so often these days, there's even a term for it, borrowed straight from the world of personal relationships.
That's what they call ghosting.
Recruiter Mark Rouse says it is becoming an epidemic.
They'll do well in the first interview, and the client will say, okay, schedule that person in for the second interview. We'd love to see them again. We think they may be the one. And then they vanish.
Just disappear.
Yeah, they just disappear.
Recruiters, he says, are also seeing people accepting jobs and then not showing up for work. Some are even ghosting gigs they already have, walking out without notice or explanation, no response to calls or emails. With employment growing nearly twice as fast as the overall economy, there is a growing labor shortage. But those doing the hiring say multiple job options is no excuse for poor behavior.
I think there's been a general decline in good manners, both personally and professionally over the years, in recent years especially.
But others say companies have been ghosting workers for years. Think not responding to job applicants or giving no feedback from interviews, work ending with no explanation. Now, the roles are reversed.
Some of these behaviors that we're seeing, organizations have done for a while. So if we're seeing it maybe as a power shift, and I think maybe there's some other indications of how workers today are trying to rebalance that power.
For smaller businesses like Wise Bites, the change is startling.
When I started my first company, people would show up at the door in their best attire, resume underneath their arm, and a couple of references in their back pocket. And today, it's so very different.
The nature of the relationship has changed. Now it's employers who are the ones left wondering why someone isn't taking their calls. Aaron Saltzman, CBC News, Toronto.
And still ahead on The National, a blast from the past, especially for all the 80s and 90s kids out there. What compelled two Calgary men to create a giant Game Boy? So cool. And that's next. Well, if you grew up spending hours and hours and hours playing the Game Boy like I did, you will most certainly recognize this iconic green screen. And that's what two gamers were counting on to raise money at their annual fundraiser. Now, Extra Life is an international event that raises money for children's hospitals through a 24-hour gamer marathon. And this year, to increase donations, two Calgarians decided to up their game. They built an actual functioning giant Game Boy. And that's our moment.
This is a giant Game Boy. It's about 4.5 feet tall, and it's our baby. We started thinking, what's something big, audacious, and just crazy that we could do that would get a lot of fun attention and just bring a lot of people in to have fun at our event. Some of the key features that we wanted to have for sure is the iconic look with the two-tone gray and the red buttons. We actually had all of the colors actually matched at the paint store. It's insane how close it is to an actual Game Boy. I'm very impressed with how it turned out. I'm super excited. It's iconic. A lot of people like resonate with the Game Boy. It's a lot of our childhoods and that sort of thing. And because this is all for the Children's Hospital, resonating with people's childhood is something that we really wanted to, bring to the fore with our idea here.
Do you guys realize how cool that is almost literally the coolest thing? You guys, no, okay. Well, I think the coolest thing is that because they're running it on an emulator, they can probably load every single Game Boy game that's ever been created on it. That's just for starters.
Oh, they're running it on an emulator.
Oh, well okay. Then, okay. I played Pac-Man on a table, one of those tabletop ones. It was not in my home. I am old.
Well,
Ian?
I'm even older, and if somebody wants to build a life-size tabletop Coleco hockey game, some people remember what that is, I will go there and do the moment from your home. It's got to be a good one, but I will do it.
Let's auction that off.
Think about that for a moment. That is the National for Tuesday, November the 5th. Good night.
Good night.
Night.